Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. Some of you know I heat my house with wood, and on average I cut and split about 8 to 10 cords of wood a year, and saws are a very important part of that process for me. So I thought I'd make a video and talk about some of the things I've learned over the decade plus of heating with firewood. One of the questions I often get asked is, what size of saw do I need? And that is a subjective question, and it's going to depend on a few things. What are you cutting? How much are you cutting? And what's your budget? Generally, I'll say for a firewood saw, and this would be, sort of for like a natural fireplace, would be something along the lines of an MS-270. That's roughly a 50cc saw, probably right around the $400 price range new. And it's a good all-purpose general saw. Doesn't have to be steel, but something along those lines. Something similar to an MS-270, for example. If you're cutting more volume, or maybe you're heating with wood, you might want to consider a pro saw. The saws I have on the bench here are what is considered a pro saw. Let's take this 241, for example, on the end of the bench. This is a 43cc saw, and if you looked up the specs of this saw compared to an entry-level 43cc saw, this would likely have more power. And what that usually equates to is a faster cut. So if you're cutting a lot of volume or you're using the saw all day, that's a huge benefit. And that's what a pro saw is designed to be used. It's designed to be used all day, every day. Typically it's going to be a better built saw. In some cases it'll have more features, but the biggest thing is the power to weight ratio. So for the same amount of weight, you can get more power, which is a big thing if you're using the saw a lot. I would also recommend, if you're traveling to get firewood, which I do, sometimes I'm going 20 to 30 miles, or if you're in a remote location, maybe out in the woods, deep in the woods or something, I would recommend having more than one saw. And if you have a mechanical problem, or if you break a saw, drop it or something, you have a backup. If you pinch a bar, you might need another saw to get it free. So for those reasons, I keep multiple saws. I have 4 saws total. One of them is not on the bench just simply because I didn't have room for it. But from left to right, I have a MS-241, an MS-261, and a Dolmar 7910. The one that I don't have on the bench is a steel MS-661. So I have 2 smaller saws and 2 larger saws. In case I have a problem with either one of them, I have a backup so I can still get what I need to get done. I also recommend learning how to file a chain. There's many ways to sharpen a chain, but when you're in the field, you're in a remote location, again, maybe deep in the woods, you're not always going to have power available, and you can always take extra chains, but things do happen, chains break, you might dull 2 of them, and if you know how to file a chain, you can still keep cutting. It's not the method I use to sharpen chains mostly anymore, but I did take the time to learn it and get good at it, get proficient at it, so that if the need does arise, I can sharpen the chain in the field, and it has happened. So for those reasons, I would recommend learning that skill if you're cutting a decent amount of wood. Also, as far as general maintenance goes and care goes, when you're done with your saw, what I typically do is set it on the bench. I'll take and blow all the wood chips out around the recoil. I'll blow the wood chips out around the muffler, and I'll blow all the chips and sawdust and kind of grime and grease out around the oil caps and the fuel caps. And then I'll go ahead and make sure the chain is tight. I'll make sure it's sharp, and I'll fill both the oil and the fuel up before I put the saw away. And I just kind of pounded that in my head and made it a habit, because when I usually go to grab a saw to use it, generally I don't want to take the extra time to make sure all those things are in order. And in this case, I can just grab a saw off the shelf, throw it in the truck, and I know that it's ready to go. It's ready to run. As far as brands go, I'm not going to get deep into that. That's again subjective. It's up to you. It's based on your experiences. I have 4 steel saws. I have a top handle too, but I have 1 Dolmar. I bought the Dolmar about 8 years ago, and I did have a problem with it after about 2 years of owning it. I did have to rebuild the upper end, and it was because it piston ring stuck about 3/4 of the way around on the piston, and it had lost compression. So for those reasons, I kind of stick to steel. I don't think in the 12 years I've been doing this, I don't think I ever had a problem with a steel saw. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I changed a spark plug in one. They're well-built saws. They're usually a little bit more pricey. However, you do sometimes get what you pay for, and I firmly believe Stihl is one of the better brands of saws out there. I can't speak to all of them because I haven't owned all of them, but if you're looking for a very good saw, you can't go wrong with Stihl. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.